Welcome back to FURYCAST. But first, make sure to like this video, subscribe, and of course, smash the bell for notifications. And don't forget to sign up to the mailing list for my new graphic novel, illustrated by the world-famous Ebi Canales. Sign up now. The link is in the description. Today on the show, she's been an academic, a college professor, and also helped to save lives overseas in the healthcare profession. But I know her through her modeling career and her passion for motorcycles, especially old school Harley-Davidson. Today on the show, I welcome my new friend, Harley Ninja. How are you doing, Miss Harley Ninja?
Good. How are you doing?
Doing good, doing good. Glad to have you on.
Fantastic. Thanks for having me.
So you do a lot. You do modeling, you're in the medical field, and are a passionate Harley-Davidson enthusiast as well. So you got a lot going on.
Correct.
But first, I always like to start at the beginning. Take me back to your childhood. Tell me how you grew up.
Sure. So I'm from Colorado originally, now living here in Texas, my adopted home state. I love it. Grew up on motorcycles, shooting guns, total tomboy. So that kind of got my feet wet into the motorcycle community anyways. And my dad is a mechanic. So I kind of grew up wrenching on things anyways and tinkering. And it just kind of continued as I got older.
And so Colorado, what was that like? How's that different from Houston or Texas?
Drier, I mean, not to age myself, but this was in the 80s. So people were nice. It was moderately safe. It's nothing like it is now. Reminds me a lot of Houston nowadays. Like, I guess I live outside of Houston, not Houston proper. So I kind of am out in the country, and it feels nice to be out of the city and still have all of the amenities. I love getting to do all the things like go to motorcycle shows and all of the rides and be part of such a big community here too.
And so growing up in Colorado, what was your family life like? You had a mom, dad at the house, brothers, sisters?
Yep. Grew up, I'm the oldest of four, lived in Denver till I was 10, and then we moved up into the mountains. Even now when I drive home, there's about an hour time period where I completely lose cell service. Like everyone loses cell service. So it's like, I'll call you in an hour and let you know I'm safe. It's kind of strange nowadays. You're like, you don't go very long without a cell phone. So
It's probably nice, right? Just to be by yourself for an hour.
It is, but it's a little terrifying because they're kind of treacherous roads with a lot of rock slides. So you're like, all right, if that boulder comes down and crushes me, I hope someone finds me or I ride off the road. I've ridden those back roads before, and it's like something happens, man. You're just hoping a nice passerby stops eventually and finds you. So definitely makes you respect life a little bit more. I think everything's at the palm of our hands. I don't know. So being out there, you're a little bit more careful. I don't know. You're more community, I would say too.
In Denver, it's more
care of each other.
Is that because it's smaller, it's tighter knit?
Yeah. One time it was a blizzard, trying to drive up one of the mountain passes that they were closing. One of the people who stopped to help us, because we were sliding off the road, happened to be our next door neighbor in a town of 800, and we're 2 hours away. It's kind of small odds that would be who you find, but it's kind of cool to just know that even 2 hours away, your community is still there.
So you were in the Denver area you said, so your parents had 5 kids?
4. I'm the oldest.
4. You're the oldest of 4. Okay.
Yeah.
And so where did your love for motorcycles and Harley-Davidsons come from?
I was 2 years old when my dad got his first Harley, I should say, XLCH 1000 1972 Sportster, which I still own. I still love to wrench on it. It's kind of I don't know, it's what I learned on, I guess. I always joke, it's not that hard. You just get the manual, and as long as you remember righty tighty, lefty loosey, you can do anything and read a manual. It's not really that easy, but you know, self-taught. I always joke I break it twice before I finally fix it. You think you fixed it, and then you try to make it work, and you realize it's still not working. So then you actually fix it, you know. So, but I'll tell you what, I can rebuild a carburetor like nobody's business anymore. So,
How many times have
but
you rebuilt that carburetor in that bike?
times, 3 times.
Three
So,
times.
but I've owned it. I mean, it's been my own bike for over 10 years now. So every couple of years, the seals kind of go bad and, you know, the gas sits and it's always one thing or another. So if it's not the chain, you know, new tires, rebuilding the carburetor, adjusting the lifters, you know, it's constant mechanics, the rewiring it because the wires, you know, from 1972 have gone bad finally from all the road rot. And so it's constant, but it's good because it slowly falls apart little by little. So I slowly have to learn to fix things. It's not all at once. It's not
Like
like
like a
building a
human
motorcycle
being.
from the ground up.
It's like a human being. We're all slowly falling apart little by little, trying to
Exactly.
maintain. Now, as a woman rider, and we'll get back into the story of how you got that bike from your dad, but I'm just interested. Have you found a community of female riders anywhere that you've connected with?
Yeah, so there's actually a community here in Houston, the Litas, that ride. And then I went out to California for Born Free motorcycle uh, rally a few years ago and actually met up with quite a few female riders that I followed on social media on Instagram. And so it was really cool to get there and like pre-know people before even arriving and being able to have that group to look forward to. So few and far between the chicks who ride their own and even fewer the ones who work on their own motorcycles. But I think we're all brothers and sisters on the road because it's kind of us against the cars. So, you know, it doesn't really matter to me what you're riding as long as you're being safe and, you know, we're looking out for each other's backs.
And the Litas that's here in Houston, I hadn't heard about them. Tell me a little bit about them.
So just all female riding group. They actually do quite a few rides and there are quite a few chapters throughout the United States. So one of the bigger chapters happens to be here in Houston. They do quite a few different types of meetups.
Awesome.
So
I'll check them out. So
I know.
take me back to your childhood. You're there with your siblings and your parents. Um, were your parents together the whole time through your childhood?
Yep. I grew up with two-parent family, kind of the Cleavers a little bit. Dad was a mechanic, mom worked, walked myself to school, elementary school there in Denver. You know, I grew up on the back of that, well, the front and then the back of that motorcycle. My sister was born 3 years later, and so we literally have photos of my sister sitting on the front holding on the tank and I'm sitting on the back holding on to dad and you know zooming around Denver. And nowadays it sounds absolutely insane, but it wasn't, you know, that it was the 80s. It wasn't a thing. We barely had car seats and seatbelts. So
Oh, I know. My dad had I guess he had bought a used U.S. mail truck Jeep back when a Jeep mail truck, with the doors, not suicide, but they pull back, and we would just ride in that with no seat belts and the doors wide open. The steering wheel was on the right hand side instead of the left because it was a mail truck, and just whip around corners, no seat belts, the doors wide open. Welcome to
no
the
thought of
70s and 80s.
safety.
Yeah, hey, but sure was fun though.
Made us tough. My
Absolutely.
brother loves the expression, if you're gonna be stupid, you better be tough. So I don't know if that
Mhm.
explains one or which came first, the chicken or the egg kind of situation.
Yeah, it's true though. It's true. So your dad has the Sportster. You're in Denver. So what's next for you?
So we move up. I become a farm girl obligatory. So that wasn't that, you know, I never would have imagined becoming a farm girl at 10 years old. I was complete city slicker, you know, move up there, never heard country music, and George Strait was a 4-letter word and
Where'd
didn't
y'all move to?
A small town, I'm gonna put it on the map now, Hotchkiss, Colorado. About
Hotchkiss.
800 people, not even a stoplight in town. I mean, it's you blink and you miss it.
See, okay,
So
so I'm interested in this because, like, growing up in like we were in California, and you know, then here in Houston, I came to Houston like 1990. It's always been just big cities, people always around you. So to me, like 800 people sounds awesome, but it wasn't that for you, or no? Like, if I could just have like few people as possible, that'd be great. But
it was so different though. I mean, I was, like I said, I was used to walking to school, and now our driveway alone was a quarter mile long of gravel to walk up to meet a bus. And then it was a 45-minute bus ride to pick up everyone. Like, there was
it's a
never
lot.
the concept of riding your bicycle to your friend's house because they lived 7 or 10 miles away, up and down hills and valleys. And, it totally changed my childhood, and maybe in a better way, because I think I really developed work ethic, independence, like the whole idea of no one's coming to save you. So my dad had two girls for the longest time, for 10 years. And so there wasn't really the excuse of I can't do this, I'm a girl. It was, just, if you gotta go get a breaker bar, or use, this is physics and this is how you have to open it. If you don't have the strength, you have to use a lever. And, it was really like, there's
You,
no excuse, figure it out.
yeah,
Being a girl is not an excuse. So when it
you're
came
using all the
to,
jujitsu terms I use in when teaching jujitsu, but I actually, even to back up what you're saying, I've told particularly female students that, in my adults class, that come in, and they're a bigger person, even a bigger female might be on top and have them in side control, and they're kind of like looking at me, the coach, to stop it. And I'll tell them, nobody's here to save you. You've got to use your hips. You've got to create leverage. You've got to do all these things to save yourself. And so you're saying, what sounds like you're saying, your dad and your mom kind of instilled that in you very early.
absolutely. I mean, and how it changed. I mean, it was cool moving from the city up to the country because suddenly we could go out in our backyard and shoot guns. And, we had four-wheelers and ATVs to ride. And suddenly we got
Fun.
horses and had to learn to care for giant animals. And, it just instilled that independence, I think, that makes if you're going to be out on the road, you got to be tough. But it's just how it is. You can't.
Life is
One of my
tough.
favorite stories. So I did a big ride with my dad, and we ran. It was a bucket list item on my list in life. Do a big ride with my dad, and he always wanted to do the PCH, the 1 and the 101 in California, all the way up to Southern Oregon, where his parents, my grandparents, lived. At the time, I was living in Lincoln, Nebraska. And for those who don't know, just if you could throw a dart in the middle of the United States, pretty much that's essentially Lincoln, Nebraska. So I had to ride myself alone all the way over. And that was on the 72. There's no, I'm crazy, but I'm not that dumb. This is on an '07 Sportster that I bought kind of specifically for this. I rode over to him, 800 miles to Western Colorado, met up, repacked up all of our stuff. We lived off of saddlebags and out of a tent for 12 days. We wound up riding down to Southern California to Irvine, where my sister was, saw her for about 48 hours. And then we started up the coast, and we slept under the redwoods. And
And this was just you and your dad.
just me and my dad, about 10 years ago now. And I mean, we literally pulled off San Luis Obispo, threw up the tent, pitch black, on the side of the interstate, about 5 a.m. Hundreds of cars started going in. They had an agricultural center back there, and all the migrants were going in to do the work. And we're like, what's going on? Pack it up, throw it on the bags, go down to San Luis Obispo and have two dirty, disgusting, stinky bikers walk into some trendy little hippie bar coffee shop down in San Luis Obispo, California, and pull up for some coffee and, you know, an omelet. It was the best experience, but it was also terrifying after me and my dad separated and I was headed back to Nebraska. We're in Salt Lake City and he was going back to Colorado. I ran into torrential downpour. What do you do? And people are like, what did you do? What did you do? I'm like, you know what? I just pulled over on the side of the road and I got off my motorcycle and I sat beside it and I just cried. Like, no, you just keep going until you get through the rain. Like, there's no reason. Stopping isn't going to make it better. And, you know, crying about it isn't going to make it better. The only thing to do is to keep going, and eventually you're going to find the end of it. And then you can stop and reassess and make sure you're okay. But, you know, you don't, when you're in the middle of that storm, stopping isn't going to do you any good. The mindset has to be to push through the difficulty to get to the end. You know, stopping and crying wouldn't have done anything. So
once again, like life, right?
Yeah,
or jiu-jitsu.
making you tough. You gotta be tough to be out there and you know, not be afraid, because the worst thing that can happen is you go 5 more miles and then you pull over.
Yeah.
And maybe you do 5 more again, you know? So it definitely, being a country girl, being a tomboy, you know, the idea, that mentality of it, just because you're a girl doesn't mean you can't do it. It just means you might have to do it differently. You're going to have to find different tools to use or a different way about it. So.
Absolutely. So let's get back to your childhood then. So then you leave the farm and you go to college. Is that the...
Go to college in Nebraska. I decided to do a bachelor's in Spanish. Well, my friends talked me into, let's go do summer in Europe. And we'll use our college scholarships and grants. Let's go party in Europe.
You're going to take that money and just go
meet
we were Spanish guys
do,
and
do a minor degree in Europe in Spanish.
Are you going to go to school in Spanish? Okay, I thought you were just taking the money and just going.
And, you know, Europe. And I missed the deadline. And all my friends went for the summer. And I was like, well, I guess I'll go for the fall. I'll go for the fall. Well, they were done. After summer, they were homesick. And they're like, we're not staying for the fall now. You're alone. And I find this out when I get over there. They're gone. They pack up and leave. So I get over there. I end up spending 2 years over there. I loved it. Actually, was married for 11 years, married a guy from Spain, came back to the States, finished my degree here stateside and started teaching. So I actually was a college professor for 15 years. And during that time, my dad was always like, you know, I'd go home and we'd ride the motorcycles and ride the ATVs and stuff. I'd be like, Dad, when you're going to get too old to ride this motorcycle, you got a newer bike. You don't need this one anymore. And he says, when you can kick this over, when you can kick the bike over, it's yours. Well, I don't weigh but 120, 125 pounds. And I think he never expected I would be able to kick it over, because unlike newer bikes, there's no button to push. You have to manually, physically start the engine over. And that motorcycle has what we call the highest compression ratio, meaning that the engine compression is extremely tight and extremely difficult to turn over to make it run. I really don't think he ever thought I would be able to do it. But again, you know, he really did this to himself. He taught me to be hard-headed and to push through and to figure out a way. And I managed to figure out a way to swing my back foot through hard enough and kick my body weight down. I actually was able to start the bike over. And so.
And how old were you when you finally got this? Because this was
28.
And when did he originally give you this this test?
I was probably 14.
14 to 28.
Yeah. So there were years I would go home and I would practice and I would get on it. And it would, I mean, it'll throw a grown man over the front of the handlebars if you don't have the timing and everything right. I mean, it literally kicks back. And so it'll throw, you know, a 200-pound man over the front of the handlebars. So it was a lot of broken shins and and scary moments, and the bike almost falling over on me countless times, and just that hard-headedness of going home and messing around on the farm and shooting some guns and getting bored and thinking, I'm gonna go see if I can kick that motorcycle over yet. And yeah, it just,
How did it
I
feel when you
started
finally
over.
kicked
My
it
dad
over?
walked out and he said, who did that? I was like, I did that. It's mine now.
And he honored his agreement.
He was not happy. It's
He was not
it's in,
happy.
it's in English. Well, it is partially because of the safety issues. It's an English shift. So I was kind of not really used to riding motorcycles, but we had dirt bikes. So I kind of knew what I was doing. He's like, but you can't ride this because it's an English shift. The shifter and brake are on opposite sides with your feet.
Got it.
He's like, you're going to think you're braking and you're going to shift and you're not going to stop. And then you're going to have an accident. And, I can't let that happen. Finally, I convinced him that I would learn how to ride that bike and it would be okay. So it's now mine, but it was a lot to pry it out of his hands, I think.
And so you get the bike. At this point, you're a college professor. Where are you teaching?
Yeah, I was teaching at the University of Nebraska.
Okay, and what were you teaching Spanish or were you teaching?
Yeah, so I taught Spanish, I taught English as a second language, international business, and then honestly, plethora of other courses of like college prep, college orientation, technology, just kind of some of those intro classes to get students going and ready to be successful. College success, for example. So
No, I've worked in academia, and it can be its own separate deal. It seems like the people that make it a career are kind of cut out for that.
yeah.
In a certain way, it's they're kind of like the people that go into politics. They're kind of like built for that life. You know what I mean? Why did you choose not to stay in academia? Was it because you just weren't? It wasn't for you?
So I still work my big girl job. My real job is
Mhm.
actually still in academia. I'm just more behind the scenes now. I design classes online for an aviation college. I don't have to know anything about piloting or any of that. I just have to know the IT side and like course setup, course design, curriculum design. So it lets me have kind of freedom to be able to go and travel and model and ride motorcycles and do all the fun things on the side. And I still get to be mobile and I'm completely remote. So, but that being said, it was really difficult for me because it was like leading a double life, to be honest. At the time, for about 3 years when I first started modeling, I had part of my head shaved, and just like now it's flipped over. I would go to work, I'd pull up on my motorcycle, take out my nice fancy heels and stuff and take off my motorcycle boots and put those in my saddlebag and put on my heels, and I'd flip my hair over, go teach, walk out, pull my riding boots on, flip my hair over, and I had my little side shave going on, put on my helmet. So it's kind of a double life I felt like I was leading. It was fun, but it
How
was
many college
exhausting.
freshmen hit on you is what I want to know. like the teacher pulling up on the motorcycle with a head shave, putting on her stilettos, coming in to teach Spanish. There's got to be a couple dudes like, hey, I'm gonna holler at her.
I think I was the head was so buried in the books. I don't really think I noticed it, but I did find out. Oh, I can't believe I'm going to share this story. One of my most embarrassing stories, I found out I was teaching a class and I was talking to other instructors of that level of class. And they were like, these students are so not engaged. They're just checked out. I can't get them to participate. And I said, what are you talking about? They're great. I mean, they're always asking me questions and want to know more. And then I found out at the end of that semester that they like to ask me questions because I would go up to the board at the chalkboard and I would write a lot, and they would watch my butt jiggle in my dresses. So they were
Oldest trick in the
super
book.
engaged, but not for the right reason.
Oldest trick in the that and the I'm having
You
a
have to
problem with
wear them.
this. Could you bend over and help me with this problem? These are the oldest tricks in boydom.
So impressed. My chalkboards would be completely full by the end of every single class period because I would write so much stuff.
They didn't pull the old pencil drop.
You
Can
know,
you pick the
I
pencil
didn't
up for me?
fall for that one, but the chalkboard, my back turned to him. I fell for, I didn't even think about that one. It was not even a thought. And one of my
It is
females,
part of your job.
yeah,
You've got to answer the question.
female students was who told me to, and and of course she didn't tell me till the end of the semester. So here I've spent 13, 16 weeks turning around for an hour a day, you know, writing continually on a board. It was like, oh, I don't even know how to fix this.
But eventually those same students could see you in the pages of
They
Lowrider
did it.
magazine, right?
So hence the moniker Harley Ninja. I really worked hard to keep my life separate from work and from like professionally, from being a professor, and then from modeling and the Harley. And I did competitive bodybuilding for a while. So, you know, you're up on stage in a little itty bitty bikini, you know, with lots of photos, and of course, posting progress pics and everything else. So really tried to keep that separate. As far as I know, only one of my students ever found me. He came up and he said, I found you on Instagram. I said, no, you didn't. He said, Harley Ninja. And I was like, oh. I said, if you tell any of your friends, I'm going to block you and I'll make me private, my profile private. And he says, I won't tell anyone. And no one else that I know of, none of the other students ever said anything. So I'm pretty sure it was okay.
They all kept it a secret. I
You
don't
know,
trust this kid.
either they were quiet enough about it. They were pretty loudmouth. I think I would have known. They loved to to be loudmouths.
And this was all in Nebraska.
This is all in Nebraska.
You need something to do in Nebraska, am I wrong?
Yeah, you know, they're bored. I was too. So motorcycles, bodybuilding. I did MMA for 7 years. I know that's your bread and butter.
Yeah.
So, you know,
Well, before we get into that, didn't you you had a medical career? At what point was this? Was this in between teaching or after or post teaching?
Yeah, so I was teaching and I was working at college, and they kept, you know, stringing me along. Well, if you get your master's degree, we'll hire you on full time. So I went and got double major master's degree. Well, if you know, we don't really have enough students to have a full-time professor. You're just an adjunct. If you get more students, we'll hire you full-time. So I get more students. Well, our study abroad program, you know, it's real slow. So after 5 years of being strung along to get full-time, I was like, you know what, screw it. I'm going to go back to school, and with all my credits, I can get a degree in surgical technology in like 9 months and be working.
Wow.
So I did. And as soon as I got my degree, the economy crashed and the hospital started laying off staff.
Was this about 08, 09, or when was this?
It was 09. Exactly. Terrible timing to start a new career in the medical field. Eventually, luckily, I was able to use it. I actually became a director of a medical clinic. And so I was able to use a lot of the skills that I had from business degree and teaching and running the department and having Spanish and then the medical side of things. So I was able to do that. And then bucket list, man. I guess I'm big on checking off those items on a bucket list. Always wanted to go to Africa. I don't know if y'all remember Wild Kingdom, and I used to
Mutual
watch
of Omaha's Wild Kingdom.
PBS.
Lauren Green, wasn't Lauren Green the host of that? Yeah.
exactly.
That's what,
Black
hey,
and white
people
television
don't,
in my
yeah.
room.
Kids today
And
don't realize if, you
ex-
know, Saturday afternoon, there was nothing on TV. If you weren't outside playing with your friends, only thing was on was like Mutual of Omaha or
Mhm.
things like that, you know.
Yep.
So yeah, I grew up watching stuff like that and just really seeing the world. So that was the internet for my generation, you know, television shows like that and lifestyles of the rich and famous.
You're speaking my language. And I was always fascinated by that. I worked in the United States with a lot of international students, all ages, all ranges, professionals, and 18-year-olds just coming here fresh, master's degree students, PhD students, teaching English and helping them get established and ready for school and life here. So I really wanted to go to Africa, but I didn't want to go and just teach English. So I really wanted to go and be in the operating room and saving lives and really helping people over there in a really like life-saving, tangible way, not just, here's English or, tourism. So I applied, and after I don't know, I applied probably to 20, 25 different organizations. Finally got picked up and was invited to go to Malawi, Africa as a surgical tech. Right before I got there, I found out that they don't recognize surgical technologists, and so I would not be able to practice. So I had kind of a God moment, and I had wanted to go and serve and, dedicate my life and my time to him. And all of a sudden I'm able to go, but I'm not able to do what I wanted. And I'm crying. Okay, I'm crying. I'm having a fit. I'm having a tantrum. And I'm like, I just want to serve you. Just want to do your will. And I asked you to send me, and now I can't even go and help people. And it's like God showed me as a child rolling around on the floor, having a tantrum, banging my fist. And he's like, I opened the door. Are you going to go? And all of a sudden I just like sucked up my ugly cry. I was like, you know what? You're right. I asked, the door opened. Am I going to go or not? It's not really on my terms. This isn't supposed to be about me. And I wound up going. I was there for 3 months. I ended up being able to assist in the surgeries. I taught in the medical college, surgical technology, actually made a program recommendation for the entire country. Just that when we pray and we're willing to follow through with it, when God opens those doors is when I think we have those life-changing moments that really define us as humans, as Christians, in character, in our spiritual life. And so so many stories I can tell you about that. It's but really
go ahead.
perspective gives you everything.
Yeah. Well, see, so that's one thing I didn't know about you. On this show, I do interview a lot of people of faith. I'm a man of faith, and I encourage people to share their faith journey. So is that something you'd feel comfortable with talking a little bit more about?
Sure. So I didn't really grow up in going to church. I can remember, I think twice, and once was probably Easter, going to church as a kid. But like
were
I
you
said,
Catholic? Because I grew up Catholic. That sounds like the Catholic experience, church and Christmas.
oh, I'm going to say some words that don't sound like they go together right now. Seventh-day Adventist. So
I'm
I go to
familiar.
church on Saturday, but I'm a Protestant. So it's like Jewish Christian kind of.
Is that how you grew up, or is that now?
That's how I kind of grew up. And then, like I said, I grew up in Denver and we didn't really go to church, but then we moved up into the mountain area close to my grandparents. And of course, grandma took us to church every Saturday if we wanted to go. And so I started going to church with her every Saturday. And then I eventually, my last 2 years of high school, went to a Christian boarding school. So because it's pretty kind of a smaller denomination, I went back to Denver, Loveland, and stayed in a boarding school there and finished out high school there. I went to a Christian Seventh-day Adventist college in Lincoln, Nebraska, and the not on purpose, but the company, or I guess the way that I was able to go to Malawi happened to be through the Adventist church. We actually have a huge healthcare system. During a lot of like the NBA and NFL pressers behind it, you'll see it says Advent Health. That's actually my church.
Oh.
So, and that's actually how I went to Malawi, even though I applied to like 25 different organizations. That was the one that picked me up. So, and I still practice. I still go to church every Saturday. And so, yeah, you know, it's more than just going to church, though. I think it's really important to read the Bible and to make it personal, like a conversation or a relationship. I am probably a little bit weird how I pray, especially for Catholics, because I just talk. Sometimes, you know, I'm mad and I cuss. It gets real. It's a real relationship. So, and I think that's the most important thing. It's like, it's not about standing on the corner holding a sign, you know, saying if you don't believe you're going to hell. I think it's more about love, and everything that you do from that point, once you accept Christ, is out of love. It's not out of fear anymore.
Yeah, that's awesome. Do you use motorcycles in any way to when I say minister to people, I don't mean like you said, standing on a soapbox, but just share your relationship at all with love?
So it's definitely given me opportunities. Some of the funny things is that I wind up riding with a lot of Christian riders. That just
there are a lot of Christian clubs, Christian motorcycle ministries, motorcycle
clubs. And Seventh-day Adventist motorcycle club, like, if you can believe it.
I didn't know that. That's interesting.
We've got everything. It's kind of crazy. So yeah, you know, it's I guess I like for my beliefs and my relationship with Christ and being a Christian to be something more that shines through of, oh my gosh, you live differently, you do things differently, you have a different mindset, you seem happy, you have joy. I want that. And I hope people look at me and think, how did you get that? Can I have some of that too? What's that secret? And the secret is just knowing Christ and knowing peace, and that we have eternity and we have forgiveness no matter how badly we mess up, and eternal love that we don't deserve and can't fathom. You know, so it all comes together, and it makes it easier to be in society on this earth if you're filled with that, instead of, you know, anger and envy and covetousness and you know, just wanting more for yourself. When you realize that you already have everything you need, it makes it easier to give to others. True.
That's a good word. See, I didn't know we would take that, we'd veer into this this area, but that's awesome, you know.
Absolutely. I thank you for letting me speak on this, for sure.
No, absolutely. I've been a believer in Christ once again since the 90s. I'm getting old, but you know, and it's a hard walk, you know. It's you know, a lot of times I think life would be a lot easier if I just, you know, wasn't a Christian. Hey, just go and just do what you want to do. It amazes me the people that just do what they want to do and they seem happy. I'm like, oh my God, how do you just do horrible things and just walk around with a smile on your face?
And it doesn't bother them.
Yeah, at all, you know. But so let's go back to your journey again. So you're teaching, you've gone to Africa. At what point did you get into the pages of Lowrider magazine?
Not Lowrider.
Not Lowrider. Easy
so,
Rider. Was it Easy Rider?
No. Iron Horse. So the horse magazine, Backstreet Choppers.
Gotcha.
So I was in California. I had come back from Africa. I had gotten divorced, done the big ride with my dad, and was kind of feeling lost and didn't really know what I wanted to do, where I wanted to be. So I had enough in savings. I packed up. I took my dogs to my parents' house. I put all my stuff in storage, and I called my sister in California and I said, hey, can I come stay with you and ride around Cali and live off my motorcycle for a few months while I figure out my life?
Sounds
And
like
she
a
was super
sojourn.
awesome.
Sounds like a sojourn. You're just kind of like going on. Yeah.
Exactly. Put everything away and I'm going to live off my motorcycle and whatever I can carry. And I did. Went down there and I rode around a lot. I was down there for Born Free, like I said. Met up with a bunch of people, walking around. You know, I was kind of in the motorcycle community already at that point. It was very surreal to be walking around and someone says, Harley Ninja? And I turned around and I was like, Joel 845? We knew each other's usernames. I was like, love you. He painted tanks, gas tanks for motorcycles and had a custom paint shop. And I was like, I love your work. He's like, I think it's so cool that you work on your own motorcycles. So at this point, I'd already been documenting or posting a lot of my motorcycle journey of like rebuilding things, taking things apart. Like I said, I had my 07 Sportster 883 that I had redone a lot on. I redid the triple tree, the front of the forks. I had rewired the entire bike. I had stripped down and put on different handlebars, so it no longer had turn signals or any of the fancy electronics. It was completely stripped down. I repainted it. I did all the body work. I, lowered it. I changed a bunch of stuff on it. I didn't do any engine work on that one, but a lot of cosmetics. And so I was kind of already a little bit, I guess, known in the motorcycle community. So it's kind of weird to walk around and hear people yelling, at me. So I'm walking and I hear, hey, I look around, nothing. So I keep walking. I'm walking across a field and kind of ignoring things. And finally, this guy catches up. He says, hey, I've been trying to catch you. I'm like, okay, I don't know you. How can I help you? He says, are you a model? And I was like, all right, who put you up to this? Who knows you? Who knows me? He's like, no, really, are you a model? My wife, she's a photographer. She'd love to shoot you for the horseback street choppers. You a model? And I'm like, literally, I'm like, where? I asked him, I said, where are the cameras? He says, no, she doesn't have her camera. She's coming. And I was like, no, this is a practical joke, right? He's like, no. Finally, his wife gets up there. We talk and she's like, yeah, can you come back tomorrow and bring some stuff you want to shoot in and, hair and makeup and let's do it. And
This is back when you had the shaved head and all that stuff.
Back when I had my shaved head, yep, sure enough. And showed up and not on my motorcycle. The funny thing is it happened to be on a 72 Sportster.
Oh, wow.
Also, but it was not my Sportster. The Sportster, you can go back and find the edition. It's a beautiful bike that they had just built.
What month was it? What year and month? Do you remember?
2015. No, it came out December 2015, I want to say.
Okay.
The horseback street chopper. So end up getting in a magazine on my first shoot and kind of got hooked from there. It was fun and I was getting into competitive bodybuilding at the time. Getting in front of the camera a lot more. I was a sponsored athlete for some different supplement companies, and so doing a lot more promotional stuff for them. And then it just kind of has kept going. It's a nice little side hustle at this point. I'm too old and too short to be a professional model, I would say, but it gives me a great platform to get out, meet people, and be involved in a lot of ways.
And that's how we connected on one of your modeling gigs.
Yeah.
So from there, did you do other magazines?
Yeah. So I've actually been in quite a few magazines. Feather magazine. It's kind of a more fashion type thing. I was recently in Auto Babes Australia. I got the cover of that.
Auto Babes Australia.
That was a pretty it's a 14-page spread with an interview, and so humbled to be getting these opportunities. I'm a brand ambassador for an amazing foundation, First There Foundation for combat controllers. And so I've always supported our veterans. I have a lot of veterans in my family, and I never served, but if I can use my platform for good, I don't feel like I'm anything special, but if I can help get the word out, when the 22 a day came out, I did that for a really long time. And tagged people and doing push-ups every day, and tried to raise awareness as well as I could. I did 3 years Miss Health and Fitness competition, and the proceeds that were earned from that online went to help veterans and the homeless, and actually house them. It wasn't Wounded Warriors, but it was a similar program. And I did that for 3 years. So voting, Facebook voting kind of thing. But there would be times where you could buy votes, of course. And then there would be days where every dollar would be 2 votes. And so on those I call them double dollar days, I would do push-ups or burpees in order to earn extra funds for the veteran causes that were associated with the Miss Health and Fitness. And I earned, a couple $1,000s. It was my small contribution, but it was a fun way for me to be able to incorporate the modeling and something that was really a worthy cause. Like, who cares about my modeling? It's cool for me, but if I can turn that into something more meaningful, other than just me, trying to reach a goal or do a thing. So everyone who would donate on those double dollar days, the first year I did push-ups, and I would do push-ups on camera, call out your name. All right, you donated $20. Here's your 20 push-ups. You donated $40. Then I decided to do burpees. And when people would donate $200, I would kind of be angry.
You did not do 200 burpees.
Did 200 burpees.
That seems more like a $2,000. That seems like more like a $2,000 situation. 200 burpees is a couple grand.
200 burpees, I'd break them up into 50s, and I'd take like a 5 or 10 minute break in between. It was too much. I went back. My 3rd year, I went back to push-ups because I was like, you guys are really generous, but I can't handle this anymore.
Yeah, that's
the mistake one time. I was in fantastic shape by the end of that, though. Let me tell you, I mean, I was raising like $2,000 by the end of every year I did it. So well worth it. Didn't hurt me at all. But
the shirt you have right now, that's the logo for which organization you're working with now? Their
foundation. So
say again.
First There. So 1ST there, THERE.org is where you can go to find out more information. They've got awesome merch. They talk about their rehab programs. They help all of the family members associated with the combat controllers. And so it's just a wonderful organization that the dollars are really going back to the families, to the different programs. I mean, everything from housing placement to resume writing to mental health services, housing needs. So it's really all encompassing, and it's really awesome that I get to, again, I'm a tool. I'm a product, and I'm so glad that people want to partner with me for something that's so much more than I am.
Awesome. So you have a lot going on now. Take me back. At what point in your journey did you get into MMA?
Great question. So I was married. I was about 28 years old. And my husband at the time had previously done kickboxing. And I felt like we were really sedentary. We weren't doing anything. And maybe for his 30th birthday, it would be fun for him to kind of get back in the gym. He always talked about how much he missed it. So I found an MMA gym. And for his birthday, I surprised him with, hey, we're going to go to the gym together. Look, I found this. It's going to be so much fun.
This is Nebraska?
He wasn't really thrilled.
This is Nebraska,
Yes.
and he wasn't thrilled.
He wasn't really thrilled about it. And I loved it. So we would go together, but I was just eating it up. And I mean, kickboxing, Muay Thai is kind of my bread and butter. I love throwing knees and elbows and 8 limbs. Let me at it. And I mean, he was a great sport. He played along for a long time. And eventually, because of my kind of teaching background and my passion for it, I started teaching beginning kickboxing classes, women's self-defense, and was able to just help people kind of also develop a love for being active and having that self-discipline and self-respect to take care of yourself. Again, that mentality, no one's coming to save you. If no one's there, what are you going to do? Yeah. So it all ended up playing together really well. I'm really proud. One of my guys that started with me, I was his first kickboxing coach, is now in California training at some of the big gyms for working his way up through UFC. Awesome. So it's cool for me to get to look out and say, I did that.
Yeah, it is a good feeling.
In there.
Yeah, I know. I've just been a training partner with some guys that fought professionally, and just their win, you know, you're a part of that, and you're a part of their journey. And
absolutely.
Same reason I started this podcast, just to get to know people in their journey. And you know, people are fascinating, you know, so I'm getting to know a lot about you. I never knew. And probably because of your modeling, do you think there's a stigma, like people might think that there's no depth to you because you model? Or
absolutely. So it's I joke, I'm always like, I'm not just another pretty face. I really think character development is so much more important. Mm-hmm. This is going to go away no matter how much, you know, Botox or whatever we use. What really matters is what's inside. And it goes back to my Christian foundation, my Christian beliefs. Like, I don't want to be, excuse the language, a piece of shit wrapped in a pretty box. Yeah. I want to be more beautiful on the inside than anything anyone sees on the outside. I often joke, I was an ugly duckling until I was like 35, and all of a sudden I got hot and I didn't know what to do with it. So I was already, you know, kind of a nice person. And
I want to see these pictures before you were 35.
The before and after. It's like I had a long ugly duckling period in my life. And you know, I had to be smart, and I, you know, did a double major master's degree and developed myself in other ways, and had to be tough, you know, as a tomboy out there shooting and four-wheeling and cleaning and gutting fish and all the things, you know. So it wasn't about being a pretty face. It's so much, such a tiny portion of anything that I do in my life, of putting on makeup and going out and smiling. And I just hope that, you know, we all have a bridge to connect with people. And if that's the bridge that I use to talk to people and say, you know, hey, are you a Christian? Do you go to church? Tell me your journey. You know, what are you doing for fitness? How are you doing with your fitness? You know, how's your healthcare? Do you take care of yourself? You know, you should take Spanish. It's fun. It's easy. You'll totally use it in Houston.
Take Jiu Jitsu. You know, you'll totally use it in Houston. On the street. I mean,
true.
Yeah.
So it's such a small part. I appreciate having it. I guess it's like a gift that I know will go away. Mm-hmm. But it's so much more important to me to have more than that. When I was teaching and I do some coaching for modeling and stuff too, I really encourage people to be like more than just that pretty face. What else are you than a clothes hanger or a pretty face on the page? You know, what else are you bringing? What is the value added benefit of you as a person being there?
Now, I do have a question. When you were doing MMA, did you ever do jiu-jitsu?
I did jiu-jitsu. because MMA, you got to do them all, right? You got to be
Yeah.
able to have a stand-up game, a ground game. You got to be able to have some takedowns, some defense. I did not love jujitsu. I got to where it's about a blue belt with my training that I did because let me just say, I know it's a girl thing. I'm gonna be a girl on the show.
Her
I don't
nails.
like my face being squished into a
Okay.
dirty mat with someone's armpit or groin.
First of all, my mats are always clean. You can ask anybody. I'm obsessive about clean mats. That's the one thing that drives me crazy. If like the class before didn't clean the mats and left it, you know,
So you know.
just for that reason, the fact that we're on the mats and our face will be, you know, you can't go to the restroom with bare feet then walk onto my mats, man. I'll kind of lose it on you, you know. Trust me, even my kids' class, it's like, what are you doing, man? You can't just walk into the restroom and then walk on the mats.
Yeah.
So all the kids that come, they've got their little flip flops on. They put them next to the mat. They, you know, they know the whole deal. But the groin and all that other stuff, bro. And but it, you know, it goes the other way too. Like I've rolled with some of probably the most beautiful women in the world, but I've never had a sexual thought at all. It's just not that.
No, and
To
no,
me, it's
it's
just
not,
not that party. So I'm just
not
saying
such
that, like when a dude's groin is like right here,
grossness of the
there's nothing
armpit.
sexual about it.
It's
Trust me. Or as I've
even
had guys
with a
like
chip.
chest sweat dripping into your eyeball. You're doing no gi, and it's like, you know, hey, this is what I signed up for. You know?
100%. I mean, I used to roll with guys and girls, and so it's not sexual. It was really just, I prefer to stand up and punch someone in the face
Yeah.
rather than be on the ground. And granted, I might have the better position, but my face is in their crotch, and I'm,
If you got up
turning
to a
it
blue belt, you
into,
got pretty good though. You know, I mean,
huh?
if you got close to a blue belt,
Yeah.
you've got a pretty good foundation.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
I can defend Ronda Rousey, man. She came on the scene just as I was kind of getting out of MMA. Shockingly, I was like, man, if I was 10 years younger, I got my millions here. I appreciate a nice armbar or a Kimura, rear naked. So and those are all really great for women to use in self-defense type situations. So,
it's like you were saying earlier, it's leverage. It kind of goes back to what you were talking about with Harleys or whatever. It's, you know,
yep.
a woman using not physical strength, but other tools using leverage and, you know, geometry to defeat a stronger opponent. Really, jiu-jitsu's incredible because it's really the only martial art. I heard Joe Rogan say this, that really delivers on the promise of a smaller opponent being able to beat a bigger opponent.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. I mean, I'm 5'4", I weigh 125 pounds. If a big guy comes up, he's gonna have reach advantage, strength advantage, distance, striking. He can put his hand on my head and I'm not even gonna be able to punch him. So it completely takes out any kind of training I might have for kickboxing type defenses, unless I use some kind of leg sweep or a leg grab or some other grappling move to bring them in. And then I want to be able to use jujitsu. I think it's so important to be well-rounded, and not just boxing, not just jujitsu, like know all the things, at least a little bit.
Now, why'd you get out of it? Did you just move? Was that the deal?
So, I just, the worst reason. Well, two reasons. I broke my wrist, so I wasn't really able to punch. And then once my wrist healed, in that time, I had dermal piercings up here under my collarbones.
Mm-hmm.
And in jiu-jitsu, having that collar pressure, it ripped them out. And I was like, man, you guys, I told you not. It didn't matter. So all my piercings, I did let everything heal up. It was kind of a mess. And so by the time everything healed, I was into bodybuilding and it kind of went by the wayside. Although if I see a heavy bag, I can't not go punch it a few times.
Yeah. Get back into, I mean, just for fun. Now they have, MMA classes that are more recreational based for, people after work or whatnot. But,
I know. I think I'm gonna have to come visit your gym just to come in, say hello and go through, let you run me through a class and see
Yeah.
what I have to still learn.
Anytime. So now, what brought you to Houston?
Job opportunity. I was kind of living, I'd moved from Nebraska back to Colorado and was kind of doing a job way beneath my skill set. And at the time I was dating a guy, his job was going to transfer him to Houston. So I get online, start clicking around, and I found an amazing offer. I was able to come. I was working in a high rise, for anyone who knows the area, over on Kirby. Window view overlooking the city on the penthouse suite, making my own hours. It was a contract deal, and I thought, all right, I'm gonna go to Houston. If I hate it, it's only 10 weeks. I can leave and I can go back to Colorado. And if I love it, then it's awesome. So I came down, took the job, and 2 weeks later, I went back to Colorado, got a U-Haul, brought all my stuff down. Typical story, brought all of his stuff down immediately, got his stuff here, and he dumped me. That was okay.
He dumped Harley Ninja?
Yeah, I know. Shocking, right?
Who's this? Who's this guy? Was this Brad Pitt or what?
What is wrong with him? But now I've got my dad living down here in Texas. My sister lives here in Texas now from Irvine. So, I mean, I love Texas. I love freedom. I love guns. I love not paying state income tax. So there are a lot of pluses to being down here. I would definitely encourage people who are, free thinkers and like independence, have similar mindset, they would thrive being down here because we have a lot of opportunities here that you don't see in other places, other states.
Yeah, I've got friends and some family still in California and some friends in Washington State, Pacific Northwest, and they're in healthcare. And I'm like, dude, why don't you just what kind of like opportunities you'd have and the money you would make and the money you would save if you just moved to Texas or Houston for healthcare, especially, But so what's going on with you now? So you moved to Houston for the guy. Tell me, do you ever get into so you got into modeling and you moved to Houston, kept the modeling going. What's going on with you now?
So some of the modeling stuff is still going on. I do a lot of foundational work now. Like I said, I like it to go beyond me. So I do a lot of fundraising and use my platform for fundraising and different things. I was just at the Mavs ball up in Dallas. They do great work. I am currently finishing a book I was in a real bad relationship, and I hope to help people spot the signs early on, get out and possibly save their lives. And I'm really hoping to use that as a platform. My 5-year goal is to be a motivational speaker, helping people better their lives. My personal motto is empowering others to be their best self. I think that we all need someone to be a cheerleader to help us get on that path. So 5-year goal, it's slow but sure. It's been 3 years in the making for writing this book. I'm so close. It's about 85% done. I'm almost there. My birthday is March 29th, and so my goal is to have it finished by my birthday. So this is the big push. Have it in publication by middle of the year, end of June of this year, and really help let that kind of be a launch pad for me to be able to connect with people just like we're doing now. Talk to people, inspire them, motivate them, talk to you. What's your 5-year goal? What do you want to do in 5 years? How are you getting there? Who did you tell? Who's holding you accountable? What gets you out of bed every day? And get to connect with people on that level.
Awesome. I'll send you a link to my movie Lion Killer. The poster's back there because it's the female lead who's played by Regina Ting-Chen, who's currently on Stranger Things and a couple other things. Her character is recently out of a, tumultuous relationship, some abuse and whatnot. So, check it out. I'd like to know your thoughts on it, and anything you want to share. And anytime you want to come back, let me know. Any last words? Where can people connect with Miss Harley Ninja?
Harley Ninja is on Instagram, is the best place to find me. I'm also on Facebook. I will post more links as it comes up for the book. And then any podcasts that I'll be on, of course, share the heck out of it, because I appreciate your time. I love connecting with you. I really respect what you do, getting out there and being a voice to showcase the average Joe, and none of us are average. We just don't see how fabulous and amazing we are, I think, until we're sharing our stories.
Absolutely. Like I said, you're definitely fascinating, and I appreciate your time. And like I said, come train anytime you want. Let me know, and we'll stay connected. Thanks. Talk to you soon.
Thank you so much for your time.
And there you have it, my conversation with Harley Ninja. Just want to give her one more shout out. Thank her for being on the show today. Make sure you follow her on Instagram. Her links are in the description. You can also follow my new graphic novel, The Gentleman's Guild. Yes, I'm making a graphic novel. It's called The Gentleman's Guild with artist E. by Canales. You can sign up for the mailing list now. The link for that is also in the description. And don't forget to watch Lion Killer, my debut feature film. That's right, I made a movie. It's called Lion Killer. It stars Regina Ting-Chen, who's currently on season 4 of Stranger Things. You can watch it at Amazon Prime, Tubi TV, Freevee, the Roku channel, or you can pop on over to the YouTube channel called V Movies. And thanks for watching this episode of FURYCAST. And that's it for today's show. Make sure you like this video, comment down below, or simply leave me a pound FURYCAST. You can also subscribe to the channel, and yes, hit the bell for notifications. Until next time. Peace.